thanks all of you thanks for coming out. Yeah, I feel pretty chilled out after that music. Yes. I'm going to read some of my microfictions, which, as my bio said, are 420 characters long. And then, time permitting, I'm going to read a somewhat longer piece, but not that long. Okay. This first one is called Firewords. Imagine this story is hurtling toward Earth at 40,000 miles per hour. It appears in its entirety as a giant fireball of sentences blazed across the sky. The story clatters through the atmosphere and the boulder-sized letters explode like fireworks, firewords, shattering glass, shaking buildings, scaring children, crashing craters of language into the ground. Yeah, kind of makes me angry that writing can't really do that. Let's do this one. I just titled this Fearless Flyer. When Trader Joe's first carried poetry, I'd buy the cheap rhyming kind, the $2 chuck of verse. I moved on to the harder stuff, sonnets and sestinas, experiments in wild lyricism. It wasn't Whitman or Plath, but it worked in a pinch when I needed some brain food. In the end, the poems didn't sell, and the shelf space went for a new brand of kale chips. I tried the stanzas over at Whole Foods, but they weren't the same. Hide and seek. We sucked at hide and seek because the places we like to hide were so different from the places we like to seek. We hid in dark alleys, behind trees, under piles of leaves, in dank attics. The places we sought were more abstract. Mythical islands, the distant past, the landscapes of our dreams. Our games lasted for hours, sometimes even days. The last game we started, more than 34 years ago, still hasn't finished. This one is called Realism. The artist made his car paintings more realistic with each piece until the distinction between painted and real cars vanished. Eventually, the cars drove off the canvases, leaving images of sad, abandoned lots. The lots filled with rats, trash, graffiti, gangs. The artist drew himself into the scenes with whiskey bottle and crack pipe. The show was such a hit, we never stopped to think he may have really needed help. Small town girl. I was born in a small town, she said. I asked her how small. From her purse, she pulled out a city the size of a gumball. Tiny people scurrying from tiny houses to tiny offices, shops, bars. Sometimes I wish I could go back, she confessed, but I've outgrown it. Folks say I've got too big for my britches. On impulse, I grabbed the town, popped it in my mouth, chewed it, and blew a bubble as big as Los Angeles. The transitive property. The guitar wanted to learn how to play the piano. The piano wanted to learn how to play the drums. The drums wanted to learn how to play basketball. The basketball wanted to learn how to play PlayStation. The PlayStation wanted to learn how to play house. The house wanted to learn how to play it cool. Coolness wanted to learn how to play death. Death, as you might expect, already knew damn well how to play guitar. The Skywriter. A writer of very short stories was thinking about what he might do were he to suddenly become very wealthy. He decided he would hire a skywriting company to write one of his stories 10,000 feet above the beach one sunny afternoon. This is, or would be, the story he chose. Like all stories, it is as ephemeral as a puff of smoke. I hope you enjoyed it, But if not, no worries. It'll fade into the blue soon enough. Okay, this one's a couple pages, and it's called The Island. Here are some of the things that were found on the island. A ball of twine, a 1/10,000th scale model of the Sistine Chapel made out of seaweed, a half-eaten grapefruit, the 8 of clubs from a deck of nudie cards, a ruffled paper plate slathered with French fry grease, a ring of interlocking paper clips wide enough to fit around the neck of a lion, a wallet full of Albanian currency, and the business card of a Tyrannese magician and/or musician. The card was wet and blurry. A treasure map, a solid gold baseball stuffed inside a coconut, buried under sand, deep inside a seaside cave. A green magic potion, reputed to give the imbiber a 1 in 10 chance of immortality. We won't know how this pans out till later. A letter to the Sultan of Bernal, signed by a woman named Claudia de Pasolini, the former hostess of an Italian television program on which people have various of their body parts turned into molds and made into truffle-filled chocolates. A famous painting of a famous photograph, which photograph depicts a painting of a photograph and so forth in a kind of endless Escher-esque progression. A kangaroo whose pouch doubles as a fax machine. A garden in which giant asparagus grow so high they reach the sun and grow right through the sun as though skewering it. A species of frog whose facial features change depending on who or what is looking at it. A map of the island, as imagined by mapmakers who had themselves never visited, but had had the island lovingly described to them over the phone. This is the most accurate map of the island extant to date. A teardrop the size of a small child. Speculation about the creature who cried it leading to a lonely monster residing in the same cave where the gold baseball stuffed inside a coconut also resides. A message in a washed-ashore bottle that reads, "Sorry, try again." Several sticks lined up along the beach arranged to read, "Rescue me," followed several yards further on by more sticks lined up to read, "Just kidding, I like it here, and going home seems too scary now." A non-fiction book about comets, purportedly written by an actual comet, whose previous book, according to the jacket copy, was more of a psychological thriller, though also about comets, i.e. the effect on the residents of a small New England fishing village when struck by a comet. Another monster, this one female, who apparently lives in the cave with the first monster and who, the pair of them, are in the midst of a messy divorce. A musical instrument, entirely made from bamboo with strings fashioned out of stray electrical wiring, found amidst the wreckage of the small plane that crashed here in 1997. An increasingly hairy and long-bearded human being who has forgotten his name, it is Mike Davidson, who strums the instrument, it is a harp, in an attempt to lure the dueling monsters out from their cave in order that he can retrieve the solid gold baseball, a parting gift from his former professional team upon his retirement as a baseball pitcher back in 1989, honoring his 300 minor league wins, which he had hidden in the cave soon after the plane crash. A Virginia Slim cigarette in the mouth of the male monster, who had taken up smoking only after several crates of cigarettes washed ashore years before. A weathered tan baseball glove that fits snugly around the four-fingered right hand of the female monster, who is, just now, tossing the solid gold baseball against the wall of the cave and fielding grounders. A response by the male monster to the tune being played on the bamboo harp by Mike Minnesota Masher Davidson, in the form of the monster's decision to step outside the cave for the first time in years. A response to the response in the form of the female monster, whose name is Bella Guisine, following her soon-to-be ex-husband, whose name is Parabo Goragak, outside the cave, baseball still in hand. A pen bearing the address and phone number of the Minnesota Twins front office in the front paw of the kangaroo, who is jotting down an account of these events on the back of Claudia de Pasolini's letter to the Sultan of Bernal, which incidentally expresses her undying love for the Sultan, who has hundreds of other lovers, a fact she well knows in all likelihood, and is faxing said account via his pouch directly to the office at my Marina del Rey beach house. A negotiation between Mike Davidson and the two merry but estranged monsters, which starts with Mike Davidson offering the monsters 1.5 million Albanian lek in exchange for the solid gold baseball. They could keep the coconut. A confrontation following the failed negotiation in which Mike Davidson attempts to fell the two monsters by pelting them with a bottle and sticks lined up on the sand. A slaying in which the monsters who can breathe fire, did I mention earlier the monsters can breathe fire? Char Mike Davidson to a crisp. A reconciliation between Bela Guzian and Perabo Borigak, who were both so ancient and venerable they could barely remember what had caused the strife between them in the first place. A tsunami, subsuming all of the above to underwater oblivion, excepting one small test tube vial containing the green immortality potion, which washes up on the shore outside my beach house, and which I drink quickly, and then immediately find myself wondering, do I really want to live forever? Do I, in a world in which the island no longer exists?